The date of Black Friday will soon be upon us, so I decided I was going to take out the Brisbane B for a spin. I was playing the new French destroyer line last night and not really enjoying it at all. And the Brisbane is not something that I've played in a while, but since it is part of the Black Fleet, and I think this year it's only obtainable from the Black Friday crates with a fairly low drop percentage, so it's unlikely that most people will obtain it. However, in my video last week on the Alabama, I was informed by some of you in the comments section that you did pull it out of the crates. So if you are the new owner of a Brisbane B, maybe you're wondering how the ship performs or how best to play it. And that's mostly what I want to talk about today. One thing to note is we've spawned on this alpha flank, and notice that we're sailing for the flank. In fact, we're sailing for an island near the flank. Another light cruiser spawned with us, and as you can see, he is going to abandon the flank and sail toward the center of the map. This is a phenomenon I've been noticing recently, over the past couple of months in World of Warships Legends. There are a lot of light cruisers. Oh no, my battery's almost dead when I was playing this battle. Don't worry, I did plug it in and we did not actually fully die. We are going to not disconnect the controller at any point in this game. We caught it before it happened. Anyway, the Takahashi, I believe it was, that spawned with us, is sailing into the center of the map, and I see a lot of light cruisers doing that these days. I don't know why they do it, because, well, take a look at our position. We're here behind this island, we're going to be reversing toward the cap, there's only one DD on the enemy team, and we're fairly stealthy as a light cruiser with 9.9 kilometer concealment. So it's likely we'll outspot most of the ships on the enemy team, and if we sort of reverse stern in here toward the cap and get closer to the enemy positions, maybe we can acquire some intelligence data. And then if the enemy spots us in return, it's unlikely that there's going to be anything large in the center of the map, so we're really only going to have to worry about taking incoming fire from one part of the map, namely this alpha flank. Whereas if we chose to sail into the center, and then we pushed in and got spotted, we're going to have to worry about taking fire from pretty much everywhere on the map, which, to be fair, is not a recipe for success or a good idea in a light cruiser with no armor that can be dev-struck from most angles by many battleships out there. In fact, I think the Takahashi is going to be the first blood on this battle, if not close to it. Don't sail your light cruiser off of a flank and put it in the center. There's no good reason to do it. It puts you at a tactical disadvantage. I really don't know why people are doing it as often as they are these days, but I just wanted to say that, and I don't think I have to say anything more on the subject because the results at the end of the battle and what happens to that cruiser that abandoned our flank is going to prove my point for me without me having to elucidate any further. No offense to that player if you're watching this battle, but perhaps next time consider playing the flank on which you spawned. You'll probably have some more success. Anyway, for the details on the Brisbane B, this is sort of a copy-paste minnow, but there are some crucial differences. You can see them playing out before you right now. Number one, on these torpedoes, they are the same as minnow torpedoes, essentially. They have basically the same speed, same damage. The difference is the range. We have 13.5 kilometers on these torps, whereas minnow, I think, can only get 10 or 11 at the most. I believe my minnow build has 11 km torpedoes, but I'm pretty sure a commander skill is influencing them. And so when you've got torpedoes with that long of range, plus you've got the 9.9 km concealment, you can stealth torpedo a flank like this, and you can put a ton of torpedoes in the water. I don't think any of our torpedoes are going to hit just yet. No, we did get one on that Johann de Witt, but more torpedo hits will come later. We've also got radar. As you can see, we're using it against the Shimakaze here, who has sailed a little bit too close to the sun. And, well, he's taking some damage from our HE, and he's back to port pretty much instantly. The radar on Brisbane B is a little bit better than actual Minotaur radar. It's got a 10.5 km range compared to Minnow's 9.9, and it's got a 25-second duration. Now, you can trade the radar for the trademark crawling commonwealth smokescreen, which deploys for quite a while, and it follows your ship, provided you're going at only a quarter throttle. The smoke screen is not as useful as the radar, as you can see. That move there against the Shimakaze, taking him out with the radar, is probably all you need in a match like this where there's only one DD on the enemy team to guarantee a win. Well, maybe not guarantee. The rest of the team still has to play adequately in order to get the win, but certainly wiping out the enemy team's eyes and ears right at the start of the battle is valuable. And I don't think we could have done that had we been running smoke, because the Shima himself was smoking up and did go dark with still quite a bit of HP left. Could have blind fired him, but obviously the radar is a bit more of a guarantee. And we should also talk about the shells, for that matter, because we've been shooting HE this entire time, and the Minotaur, off which this ship is based, of course, does not have HE. The HE on the Brisbane, though, is pretty good. It's got a maximum damage of 2,150. It pens 30 millimeters of armor, and with this build, we've got a 14% fire chance. So it's pretty good at lighting fires, and it gets a lot of damage, even on cruisers like Johan de Witt, which I don't know if that thing has 30 millimeters of armor off the top of my head, actually. I think it does, but even if it doesn't, and it's coded in 27, well, we can pen that. And these are 152 millimeter guns, by the way, so you normally would not really expect them to pen 30 millimeters, but Brisbane gets that. On the other hand, the AP, which I don't think we're going to shoot at any point in this battle, is not quite the same as Minnow HP. That's another trade-off. We've got 3,200 maximum AP damage on the Brisbane. I think Minnow's actually the same. It might be a little higher than that, but the main difference between this AP and the Minnow AP is the penetration angles, namely the minimum ricochet angle number. If you look at the specs page on the Brisbane, you'll see 45 degrees for the minimum ricochet angle, compared to the Minnow, 60. That's pretty important because basically every time an AP shell hits an armor surface, the game performs a lot of calculations to decide if it's going to pen, what the damage will be, etc. But when it's hitting an armor surface, the minimum ricochet angle means at 45 degrees in this case, there is a chance that the shell will ricochet. Whereas there is no chance on the Minnow that the shell will ricochet unless you start hitting a 60-degree angle or steeper. That's what you call improved penetration angles. Minotaur has them, Brisbane does not. But Brisbane has HE, which I think more than makes up for the lack of improved penetration angles, given that HE does not care about the angle, it only cares about the maximum armor thickness that it can pen. And of course, 30 millimeters is going to pen DDs everywhere, it's going to pen cruisers pretty much everywhere in a lot of cases, and it's going to do a number to battleships. And that's to say nothing of the fires that you can start, something that is impossible for the Minotaur. And also, much like the Minotaur, this thing has similar maneuverability characteristics. We've got a maximum speed here of 34.8 knots, which is certainly not the fastest for a cruiser, and I think it's buffed by something in the Commander build. But what this thing has, and you might have already noticed it earlier on in the battle, is it's got that British acceleration. So if you're going at full speed and trying to come to a stop, it takes forever. But if you're at a complete stop and then you kick it up to full speed, this thing accelerates quickly. And even experienced players in this game sometimes have a problem with that if they're trying to shoot at you and you're accelerating. It can help you dodge quite a bit of salvos. And in fact, I think we'll see an example of that with the Vermont here. But if you're not going to run smoke on the Brisbane B and you are going to play it the way I think it's meant to be played, which is as a radar cruiser, it does require a hefty amount of positioning and a lot of effort to position right. This is the type of ship where if the Vermont looks at us funny, we're going to get blown up and sent back to port. Now, to be fair, we do have the Minotaur's super heal, and we've got 3 charges of it. So we can restore quite a bit of HP if we do get blapped. I don't think we're actually going to get blapped at any point in this game, but that's not necessarily a risk you want to take. This is not a case of no armor equals best armor. If you decide to go broadside to an enemy battleship, thinking that they're just going to overpen you and not hit your citadel, you're going to be proven wrong more times than not, and quite often. You will be dev-struck. Minotaur, Brisbane, they are some of the most dev-strikeable cruisers in the game. So you do have to be careful. You got to play with the throttle and the rudder if you're caught in open water like this against a battleship that can shoot at you. Luckily, we do hit our torpedoes on the Vermont. 4 of them, actually. Not quite enough to take him down, but he does appear to be on a perma-flood, and this HE should be able to chew through his superstructure quite quickly and send him back to port, which will effectively end the game. Obviously, the perfectly balanced Louisiana is still floating, but he's about to be focused down by like 4 different ships, so I don't think he's going to be floating for too much longer, and we're going to end this game with 3 kills on this alpha flank and 150,000 damage. Perhaps not the most impressive numbers you've ever seen. However, this is going to be a high base XP game due to probably a good deal of the spotting we were doing and our kill on the Shimakaze, which was probably the turning point in this battle. If that Shimakaze was allowed to continue floating and sail around, who knows what he might have accomplished. It would probably be quite a bit harder for the blue team to have won this one, but as it stands, we are going to emerge victorious. And we're going to have, I think I already said it, 3,000 XP when all is said and done. So, Brisbane, it's a really good ship, a really good radar cruiser, but it is, to some extent, high risk, high reward. So, it requires a good deal of, I'd say, skill when it comes to positioning, which is, despite what some people might tell you, the most difficult thing about this game is positioning the ship correctly for the optimum results. Even if you're super experienced, you're going to get it wrong sometimes. So, I don't know if Brisbane is something that you want to pursue if you're not super experienced in this game. Maybe you want to run the smokescreen instead, but I'd say Radar Brisbane is pretty excellent ship. So, hope you enjoyed this video. If so, give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.